Hello, and welcome to the moment you can allow yourself peace and relaxation you deserve. In the quiet hour when the day has finished speaking, there is a kind of silence that gathers in drawers, not the empty kind, but the soft, familiar silence where small things are kept. A spare button, a ribbon, a key that no longer fits anything, and sometimes a spoon. Tonight, your hand finds one that doesn't quite belong. It's old, but not fragile. The bowl is smooth as river stone, and the handle carries tiny scratches, like faint handwriting left by time. It should feel cold, yet when you lift it, there's a gentle warmth in the metal, as if it has been resting in someone's palm for years, waiting for the moment you finally noticed it. You turn it slowly under a lamp. A spoon is such a simple thing, and still it has followed us almost everywhere we have gone. Before forks were common, before tables were crowded with sets, before meals were named and timed and served in courses, there was the humble act of scooping warm broth, soft grain, water from a clean place, the first taste a child was ever given. You hold the spoon closer, and in the curve of its bowl, you see your own face for a second, dim, upside down, half lit, as if the spoon is a little mirror that remembers other faces too. Then something changes, not in the room, not in the air, in the spoon itself. The metal seems to loosen just slightly, as though it's letting go of the present. And for one quiet breath, the spoon becomes lighter in your fingers, paler, older, until the polished bowl is no longer metal at all, but a smooth seashell, cupped perfectly for a sip of water. A shell spoon, the first kind of spoon, the very beginning. And somewhere far away in time, a fire crackles, a pot simmers, and the spoon in your hand remembers its first warmth. So let's follow it through kitchens and temples, markets and palaces, across oceans and centuries, carried by ordinary hands and unforgettable lives. Long before metal was shaped, melted, or polished, the spoon already existed. Its earliest forms were not crafted for beauty, but discovered in nature. Shells gathered from shorelines, pieces of bone left after meals, curved fragments of wood shaped by hand and fire. These objects shared one essential quality: they could hold liquid. For early humans, this mattered deeply. As cooking evolved and food was softened by heat, the need to scoop, carry, and share nourishment became essential. A spoon allowed hot food to be eaten safely and water to be carried without waste. The shell was among the first natural spoons. Its curve fits the human palm almost instinctively. With no shaping at all, it could lift broth or carry water from a stream to a fire. Bone followed naturally. After hunting, bones were already cleaned and smoothed, and with simple tools, they could be carved into shallow bowls. These early spoons were strong, durable, and warm quickly in the hand. Wooden spoons appeared as humans learned to shape branches and roots. Wood was abundant, easy to carve, and gentle on cooking vessels. Over time, repeated use darkened the bowls, staining them with smoke and soot, leaving behind a quiet record of meals shared. In this early period, spoons were rarely personal objects. They were used communally, passed from hand to hand, serving children, elders, and anyone who needed care. The spoon was not a symbol of status, but of survival. It helped feed those who could not feed themselves. It allowed hot food to be eaten slowly and safely. It made nourishment possible in a world without plates, without tables, and without permanence. There were no standard shapes, no measurements, no decorations. Each spoon reflected the materials at hand, the environment it came from, and the needs of the people who used it. Yet, even at this earliest stage, the spoon had already defined its purpose: to carry warmth, to slow hunger, to connect one human to another. And as societies grew more settled and tools more precise, the spoon would begin to change, not in purpose, but in form. Its next transformation would come with fire hot enough to melt metal. As human societies learned to control hotter fires, materials began to change. Stone and wood remained useful, but a new possibility appeared: metal that could be melted, shaped, and cooled into lasting form. Bronze was among the first metals used for spoons, made from copper mixed with tin. It was harder than bone or wood and more durable than shell. For the first time, spoons could be thin without breaking. Their bowls evenly curved, their edges carefully refined. This was a quiet turning point. A metal spoon carried weight, not only in the hand, but in meaning. Unlike earlier spoons shaped by nature, bronze spoons required skill time and knowledge. They were cast molds, polished by hand, and often marked by the person who made them. For the first time, a spoon could belong to someone. Ownership became possible because metal lasted. A bronze spoon could be kept, repaired, and passed from one generation to the next. It could travel, it could be traded. Iron followed. Though harder to work with, iron was more abundant and eventually more common. Iron spoons were heavier, darker, and less decorative, but extremely strong. They were suited to everyday use, stirring thick stews, serving communal meals, and enduring long years of handling. As spoons gained durability, their roles began to separate. Some were made for cooking, others for eating, others for serving. Size and shape slowly became intentional rather than accidental. In many cultures, metal spoons also began to carry symbolic meaning. They appeared in burial sites, places beside the dead as tools for the next world, or as markers of daily life remembered. Decoration emerged gradually. Simple lines, geometric patterns, occasionally an animal form at the handle's end. These details did not change how the spoon functioned, but they changed how it was seen. A spoon was no longer just useful, it could be valued. Yet, despite this shift, its purpose remained steady. It still carried food, it still served the vulnerable, it still moved from pot to mouth in the same quiet motion. Metal did not change what the spoon was for. It only ensured that the spoon would last longer and be remembered. As metallurgy spread and societies grew more complex, the spoon would soon enter new spaces. Organized dining, ritual meals, and public gatherings. In its next chapter, we'll find how food and culture began to meet at the same table. By the time of ancient Rome, the spoon had become a familiar and essential part of daily life. Roman society placed great importance on shared meals. Eating was no longer only about nourishment, but about order, ritual, and social connection. Food was served in stages. Gatherings followed established customs, and utensils reflected these changes. Roman spoons were commonly made from bronze and silver. Silver, in particular, was valued not only for its beauty, but for its practical qualities. It resisted corrosion, was easy to clean, and was believed to carry protective properties when used with food. The Romans developed different spoon forms for different purposes. Some were small and narrow, used for sauces, eggs, and soft foods. Others had deeper bowls, suited for soups and stews. These distinctions marked an early move towards specialized dining tools. Unlike knives, which often served multiple purposes, and forks, which were still uncommon, the spoon was central to the Roman table. It moved easily between shared dishes and individual plates, allowing food to be taken neatly and efficiently. Dining spaces themselves became more formal. Meals were eaten reclining on couches, with dishes placed within reach. In this setting, the spoon played a quiet but important role. Small, controlled movements that suited a social environment. Spoons were also used beyond the dining table. They appeared in kitchens for preparation, in medicine for measuring and mixing, and in rituals involving oils, perfumes, and offerings. This wide use reinforced the spoon's presence in everyday Roman life. Decoration became more common during this period. Handles were sometimes engraved or shaped, not to alter function, but to reflect taste, wealth, or identity. Even so, the bowl of the spoon remained practical, its form refined but unchanged. Perhaps most importantly, the Roman spoon reflected a shift in how people ate together. Meals became shared experiences shaped by culture and structure, and not only necessity. The spoon helped make this possible. It allowed food to be portioned, served, and enjoyed in a world where eating was increasingly social. As the Roman Empire expanded and later declined, its customs traveled with it. The spoon, now familiar, reliable, and refined, continued its journey into the next era, where it would settle into everyday life for centuries to come. After the fall of the Roman Empire, daily life across Europe became simpler, more local, and closely tied to survival. Meals were modest. For most people, food was prepared in large pots and shared among families or communities. Thick soups, porridge, and stews formed the basis of daily nourishment. In this world, the spoon became the most important eating utensil. Forks were still rare, and knives were often tools rather than tableware. The spoon, by contrast, was essential. It allowed hot food to be eaten safely and could be used by children, adults, and the elderly alike. For many medieval people, a single spoon was all they owned, often made of wood or simple metal. This spoon was carried from place to place. Travelers tucked them into bags or wrapped them in cloth. At inns and communal tables, each person brought their own utensil. The phrase, one spoon, one bowl, described a common reality. A shared bowl was placed at the center, and individuals ate from it using their personal spoon. This practice was practical, familiar, and deeply woven into everyday life. Materials reflected social standing. Most spoons were wooden, shaped by hand, and worn smooth through use. Those with greater means might own spoons of pewter or bronze. Silver was rare and valuable, often kept carefully and used only on special occasions. Spoons also took on personal meaning. They were sometimes marked with simple carvings or initials. A spoon could be inherited, gifted, or passed down as a reminder of family and continuity. In monasteries, spoons were used in silence, part of daily routines governed by order and restraint. In households, they moved between hearth and table, serving both labor and rest. Despite hardship and limited resources, the spoon remained constant. Its form changed little, and its purpose stayed the same. It fed the living, it comforted the sick, it accompanied people through work, travel, and age. In medieval Europe, the spoon was not an object of display, it was a companion. And as Europe slowly moved toward greater trade, urban growth, and social change, the spoon would begin to take on new roles, not by losing its simplicity, but by adding layers of meaning to it. As European societies grew more stable, the spoon began to take on a new role. It was still an everyday object used for eating, serving, and care, but in certain homes it also became something to protect. Silver spoons appeared more frequently among the wealthy. Silver was valued for its durability and its resistance to corrosion, but also for its cost. Owning silver signaled security, inheritance, and permanence. These spoons were no longer shaped only for use, but for keeping. Handles became longer and more ornate. Engravings were added, names, dates, symbols of faith or family. In this way, a spoon could carry identity as well as food. One of the most important moments in a spoon's life was its role as a gift. Silver spoons were commonly given at births or christenings, meant to accompany a child from the beginning of life. They were not intended for daily meals, but for memory. The phrase, born with a silver spoon, emerged from this practice. It reflected the idea of security at birth, a child welcomed into a world where resources were already assured. These treasured spoons were often kept wrapped in cloth, stored in chests, or displayed only on special occasions. They were polished carefully, counted, and passed down through generations. Yet, even as spoons became valuable objects, their form remained familiar. The bowl stayed shallow and practical. The handle, though decorated, remained easy to hold. A spoon could be both useful and symbolic at once. In a household of lesser means, wooden and pewter spoons continued to serve daily life. But even there, a single silver spoon, perhaps inherited or gifted, might exist as a family treasure. Across social classes, the spoon became linked to life's milestones: birth, naming, belonging. Through silver, the spoon learned to carry memory as carefully as it carried food. And as trade routes expanded and tastes began to change, the spoon would soon be drawn into new rituals, one shaped by sugar, tea, and quiet moments of daily comfort.